Hello, my name is Anaya Prenti Del Rio, and I will be giving my presentation on Marjorie Lee Browne. Marjorie Lee Browne was born on September 9th, 1914, in Memphis, Tennessee, to her parents, Mary Taylor Lee and Lawrence Johnson Lee. By the age of 2, her mother would pass. Shortly after, her father would meet Lottie Lee, a school teacher, and they would get married. Lottie would then become the mother figure Marjorie had growing up due to her mother passing so early in her childhood. Marjorie's father, Lawrence, was an extremely educated black man, and he also worked as a railway postal clerk, which wasn't common during this time in life due to the racial issues many faced during this time. Because he was educated, he also wanted his children to have the best education. He and his wife would then encourage Marjorie to pursue her career in math. Marjorie lived during a very hard time for many. As a young, smart black woman, she was often looked down upon. She was also bullied, but that never stopped her from completing her goals. In 1929, she was met with the Great Depression. During this time, people were struggling to make ends meet, but that never stopped Marjorie. She started working and studying harder to meet all her goals. By 1935, she would graduate from Howard University with a math degree. The type of math field Marjorie chose to work in was topology. Topologists study the many properties like the deformation, twisting, and stretching of an object. One of Marjorie's most significant works would be a note on the classical groups. This was a 3-page paper that gave proof about the geometry of fundamental algebraic objects. Marjorie would then go on to teach both math and physics at a private secondary school for black students. She stayed at this job for a year before she decided to return back to school. She then attended the University of Michigan, where she would receive her master's in 1939 and her doctorate in 1949. She would then become the second African American woman and the third woman to have a PhD in mathematics. After she returned to school and got both her master's degree and doctorate, she would become a math professor in North Carolina. She would teach there for 30 years before she decided to retire. During this time, she was also a part of many organizations like the American Mathematical Society and the Women's Research Society. She was even able to become the first African American woman to be a part of the National Science Foundation. Marjorie's life was filled with both ups and downs, but that never stopped her from pursuing all her goals. Sadly, on October 19th, 1979, Marjorie would pass after a heart attack. She would be described as a hardworking woman who always put others before herself. Her contributions to the math world will continue to be used even after her passing. In my last slide, I wanted to include a quote from Marjorie, and that reads, "If I had to live my life again, I wouldn't do anything else. I love mathematics."